All right, everybody, welcome back to the Renowned Leadership Podcast, where we bring you insights and conversations with top experts in leadership, business, entrepreneurship, and personal development. Whether you're a new or seasoned leader, we're here to help you achieve your goals and reach your full potential. Now, before we get started, I want to bring you to one of our latest resources. If you're retiring from the military and stepping into the corporate world, we have a resource that helps you prepare to start your new corporate career and make the transition smoother. Our specially designed checklist for military veterans is available for download on our website, renownedleadership.com. So make sure you take advantage of this tool to ensure your successful transition into your new role. In addition, we're also really excited to announce our partnership with the Career Winner Circle, or CWC. They have a roster of top-notch executive coaches and an amazing pool of resources for their clients. To learn more about CWC and how they can help you on your leadership journey, visit their website, careerwinnercircle.com. And if you're ready to take your leadership to the next level, take the next step in your journey, schedule a complimentary coaching consultation with us or me at renownedleadership.com. We're here to help you achieve your goals and take your leadership to the next level. So welcome back, everybody, to the journey of the workplace hero, from average employee to outstanding performer. This is a 10-episode podcast series that is specifically designed to just help you take your career to the next level and become a hero of your workplace. If you're ready to break away from the crowd and become a standout performer in your workplace, this series is 100% for you. With topics ranging from leadership and communication to time management, and far beyond that, our expert guests will share their insights and expertise to guide you on your journey to becoming a workplace hero. So get ready to unleash your full potential and transform into the workplace hero your workplace needs. Okay, so moving on to the guest for the day. Today we're having Mrs. Patricia Ortega. Again, I don't really need to elaborate on her and her qualifications and why you need to listen to her, because you should know Patricia by now. She's been a guest on the podcast several times. She's an amazing, gracious guest, and I am so excited to have her back. And she is going to be the one to end this series on being the hero of your workplace. So I'm really excited for this conversation. It is an epic conversation, and I know you're going to get so much out of it. So I'm not going to drag it on. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Patricia Ortega. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Renowned Leadership Podcast. And today I have a very special treat for y'all. My name is Stephen Morris, by the way. I'm your host, but it's just, I forgot to tell you that because I'm so excited to have back once again a dear friend of the Renowned Leadership Program, Mrs. Patricia Ortega. Welcome back, Patricia.
Hi, everybody. It's good to see you. It's good to be here with you, Stephen.
So I asked Patricia back for a very special conversation that I wanted to have just with her. If she told me no, this wasn't going to happen at all. And as you all know, we're wrapping up our series on how to become the hero of your own career, the hero of your own work journey, the hero of your own workplace. And Patricia is a career specialist, as you all should know. If you haven't listened to any of the other podcasts we've done with her, you got to go back and listen to those after this one. No exceptions. If you don't do it, you're grounded. Patricia is going to talk to us today about just becoming the hero of your own journey, and getting into that mindset that you are not a replaceable asset to your company, but rather the company is a replaceable asset to you. And I know that kind of seems like a gargled up message, but Patricia is going to clarify that for us and really help us break things down. Uh, what do you think about all that, Patricia?
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of the things that came to mind just immediately with the quote that you mentioned, right? That you are not replaceable, the company is replaceable. One of the conversations we had previously when planning to record this was that we go into the job search process as if we're waiting for someone to throw us a bone. Like, will you interview me? Will you hire me? And that is the complete opposite of what the situation really is. Because as you go into an interview, as you apply, if you're doing it well, that's where it starts. Before you ever get into the interview, before you ever apply, there's a whole process that happens in terms of your mindset, your confidence, your clarity of message, in terms of, knowing what skills you have that line up with the company that you want to get hired in, and then taking time to intentionally translate those skills into language that's going to resonate with the company. So now that you've done all that positioning, that's when you get multiple offers. That's when you target companies much better. And companies are now like, this is my soulmate employee. Like, I want them to work for me. And that's the leverage that gets you the options. It's also the leverage that you need in a good way for a win-win situation. This isn't a competition or like a battle. It's a win-win situation when you go to the negotiations table. You cannot negotiate if you don't have leverage. And the leverage is what you create at the front end when you literally make them know and feel that they not that you meet the requirements. That's how you get an interview, but how you get to leverage your salary is you make them feel that they emotionally, they want to work with you. So not only can you do the job, but you're someone they want to be around. They want to the experience of having you on their team. And now it's that want that gets people to actually say, I'm willing to pay more for this employee. It's a skill set, but also the emotional piece.
That's so I'm laughing because you literally just answered my first three questions, like that
Oh,
I
there's
have written down. Like this wasn't even rehearsed. She didn't see my questions. So, um, like you literally just answered them. So what process should I go through to identify my core strengths that are going to be valuable in the job market? And then once I've identified them, how do I leverage them in like a unique value proposition?
Yeah, this is a great question. So, one of the things that I start with when I work with career clients is I really start to get to know them. It's less about what skill sets do you have. We'll get into that, and that's very important. But I just kind of was talking on LinkedIn about how I kind of do it in 3 steps. And I didn't, sometimes, you don't realize how you have routines and patterns until you look back. And I was like, I've been doing pretty well. I have yet to have someone who doesn't have a stellar brand at the end of, us working together. And I'm like, let me kind of package that a little bit. And the 3 steps are that the first piece is essentially your like your personality, your brand. And that is really encompassed in terms of like what's the experience of working with you? What are your like it's the equivalent of when people say take a personality assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do whether it's Strengths Quest or MBTI, whatever personality assessment you have available to you. It's not the assessment that does the work. That's just a
Mm-hmm.
tool to help you get clarity. And so it really doesn't matter which one you use, but it's what you do afterwards when you look at the results and you ask yourself questions like, who am I? Why is it different working with me than it is working with someone else? So think of something that you're really proud of that you worked on as a team. There
Mm-hmm.
are those moments of excitement. There's those moments of motivation. There's those moments where other teams might take a different turn, but because you were on that team, you took a specific direction. And it's those little moments that make up the success of a project. And so, aside from the skills, of course, we're going to get into the skills, but it's like there's that human factor that adds to the experience. And so, look through that. Some quick ways of figuring out what might be your brand is ask people who work very closely with you to describe you in 3 words. These could be a
Mm.
phrase or 3 adjectives. just ask them to describe you in 3 words, jot down those 3 words, and then ask them to explain each of those 3 words. And as you talk to multiple people you work with, ideally someone who's your peer, someone who's a manager, and if you're supervising, someone who you're supervised, and that will help you to see yourself in a way that, because you're first person, you probably don't see on your own. So that's your
That is
brand.
that is great. And I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can we go a little deeper on your brand? Because I feel like that's something that is such a unique concept that
Mm-hmm.
you as an individual are a brand. You are
Mm-hmm.
your own company.
Yes.
Can we talk about that for a minute?
Oh my gosh, I get so excited just with that question because I mean, I was talking with a client yesterday. We had just wrapped up and I was getting some feedback from her. And she said what was music to my ears. She was like, she is not an entrepreneur. She
Mm-hmm.
doesn't run a business. She loves her position in a 9 to 5. And I don't know how this happened. I tell people all the time, I've never heard it reflected back to me. But she said that she felt as if our experience working together, she had realized that she was sort of a business and she was marketing her skills as you would market a business. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought, yes, finally, like she get not her, like she got it so quickly. But I feel like I've been trying, like in my head, it's been, it's been bubbling up for so long and I've been talking about it, but there's so much more clarity when you hear somebody else say it in their words. I
Mm-hmm.
just thought, oh, finally. Yeah, so every business, right, is vying for attention, because without attention, you don't get customers. Without customers, you don't get money. So it's really a battle for attention. But when we think of marketing, we think of slimy, we think of, buy my thing. And that's not really what marketing is. Seth Godin is a master marketer. I've read a bunch of his books, and he just
Mm-hmm.
does such a good job of helping you understand that marketing is serving people. And so, as a professional, you have a brand, and that brand helps to serve the right people. And your goal with that brand is to help the company and the employer that is looking for your service to find you. That's why you need a brand, because otherwise, you are just, it might sound funny, but you're just another jug of milk with no brand on it. And who cares which one we get? They're all the same, right? Like they're all
Right.
the same. But if you figure out what makes you unique, then you can express that outwardly. That's your marketing, and that's your brand. That's expressing who you are uniquely, so that the right company is going to say, hey, we really need someone with that level of innovation. Or we really need someone who has that cheerful personality, because our client base is going to want that. And that's how our client base thrives. Or we really want someone who's very direct and straightforward. So,
Mm-hmm.
whatever brand you have, it is the key in the combination to an employer's lock. And they are looking for something very specific. And so, when we just apply, we spray, what is it? Spray and pray, right? We just submit applications. And it's, you put on Chat GPT, write in your resume, which is a great tool, that it doesn't do the work for you. So if you do that, what ChatGPT is going to spit back at you is a rephrasing of the job description, which is completely generic. And it kind of counteracts the whole purpose of a brand,
Mm-hmm.
which is to share exactly who you are, so that someone is looking for exactly who you are, realizes your value. And that's what makes you valuable, is having that brand.
That is so amazing, because I've never thought about it until we discussed it. And it's, just imagining like each individual is their own CEO,
Mm-hmm.
right? The CEO of their own company, rather than thinking of it as I work for this person. And it really starts to shift your mindset when you look at it that way, as, you know, you're not firing me, I'm firing you, right?
Oh,
Like this company isn't the culture I want, so I'm firing you. I'm not quitting. You're
mm-hmm.
fired.
Yeah.
And when we start to look at it that way, it really changes the mentality of how just we carry ourselves. which I think is so important when it comes into that unique um, uh, skill and value proposition. Because if you go in you know, we've all seen those marketing ads that are just corny, cheesy, just bleh, and you watch it and you walk away feeling a little disgusted. Um, but then we've also seen those marketing commercials that just blow your socks off, and you're like, "Whoa, I need that."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's basically the difference. Is if you don't have that passion about yourself,
Hmm.
the company's going to have that kind of attitude towards you, and then that's how you get caught in that trap of you become the replaceable asset to the company, not vice versa. Would
Hmm.
you say that's a pretty accurate uh summarization of that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you said, like, what you said something that just sparked a wildfire in my mind. And you said, you are the CEO of your own company, right? For so long, I was stuck when I was much younger. I was stuck in, like, okay, boss, tell me what to do. And it was very passive. And when I realized, okay, I'm never going to move up, I need to essentially be my own CEO, is you need to make the marketing decisions. You need to make the financial decisions. You need to make those CEO decisions of, you know, where do I want to go next? What's the vision for my career? It's not the job that comes to me, because a lot of times, people stay at the same company forever because someone offers them a job. If that
Mm-hmm.
is a great fit job, beautiful. Sometimes though, we just move up because it's like, hey, it's a higher title, it's a higher salary, let's just keep going. But if you're the CEO of your own career, then you decide where you go, and that next step isn't necessarily the one that's given to you.
That is beautiful because once again, Patricia, you're inside my head. My next question is how
Huh?
important is it to when it comes to creating something like a career roadmap or setting career goals? How important is that?
Oh my goodness. It is some of that is one of the most underrated steps that is so necessary. And many of us skip. We think, oh, this job sounds really cool. It sounds right up my alley. It's what I'd love to do. And they think, kind of like with expenses, right? I'll pay with the credit card now and I'll worry about the bill later.
Mhm.
It's like, here's what I want to do right now. I'll worry about how to move up later. But a lot of positions have ceilings where you need additional education, or you need, a different type of certification, or maybe it's just the end of the line, or maybe it's a position where you've got, 50 people at your current position, but only one person that will make it above that. And so now you have to figure out, where am I going to go? This is a very simple example, but I used to work at a campus where they had nursing programs, they had pre-med programs, they had all these different programs. And I always had students come in saying, oh, I'm going to be a nurse. And I'm like, okay, great. We'd have that conversation. And just a few minutes into the conversation, I'd ask that question, where do you want to be in 10 years? And often they would say, I want to be a doctor. And I'm like, did you know that that is not the route to be a doctor? It will not
Mhm.
make you more competitive. It does not teach you the same things. As a nurse, you learn like a lot of the things that take place in terms of direct care. And yes, as a doctor, you do provide direct care, but as a doctor, you learn the chemistry, the biochemistry, right? As a nurse, you learn more the anatomy. So it's
Mm.
a very simplistic example, but there are people who haven't spoken with someone or haven't been told the route that you're going isn't going to get you where you think it is. And so that's one of the reasons why you always have to look forward and say, okay, is the future job going to give me the lifestyle, the pay, the, type of flexibility? Some jobs are more flexible than others. And so if you're thinking, I want to have a family, but I want to have a family and I want to make a lot of money, so I'm going to be a lawyer. But a lawyer spends 60 to 70 hours in the office, right? All very simple examples, but it's, the concept is there. The lawyer is going to spend 60 or 70 hours at the office. And if you want to make a lot of money, you're going to be a lawyer probably in contracts. But if you were thinking, I'm going to be a lawyer working with, social justice issues, or I'm going to be a lawyer working for immigrant advocacy, or some of those fields that are more like nonprofit, more, there's the money is not in there, then you probably are in for a really big surprise.
Right. And it just, you need to do research, right? Like you need to buckle down. And I understand it's not fun, but you really need to do the research of this is where I think I want to go. And that's going to give you clarity on this is how you get there. So going back, so going to the goal piece, and this is a very uh frustrating thing to me because I love setting goals. You've heard me talk ad nauseum that I love to set goals, and you know how I do it because I have a very complex system of how I set goals. But and it works for me. Um, but there's like this. I don't know if it's a trend or movement, but people are becoming very anti goal setting
Mm.
because they don't reach their goals, then they're frustrated, and then yada yada yada, and then they're depressed, and then they have to go see a therapist, yada yada yada. I've seen so many crazy TikTok, YouTube, Instagram videos about it, and one of the common themes is successful people don't set goals, and that just infuriates me, man. It's like, how, what a stupid statement. I don't like to call people stupid, but that's stupid. Like, you mean to
Mm-hmm.
tell me Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs didn't have the goal of winning the Super Bowl last year? That wasn't their goal?
Yeah.
Like, stop it. Of course it was. And it was the same goal for all 31 other teams. Like,
Yeah.
they had a goal, but the goal is the object, it's the shiny trophy at the end.
Mm.
What I think all these people are missing that are taking a proverbial poo on goals is they're missing the system that goes behind the goal, right?
Oh,
Because a goal without systems is absolutely useless, right? You
yes.
you have to have that roadmap. So, what advice would you give somebody when it comes to setting their career goals and
Mhm.
then integrating those career goals into their success roadmap?
Okay. It, what you just broke down is an entire world that people are missing. I mean, I'll kind of, I have to respond because I'm like, this is so good. It's
Okay.
so good how you're breaking things down. And then, like, I'll share on career, but this idea, oh, goals, you shouldn't set goals. No, you're just calling it something different. And you just want to say this controversial thing so that you can be the one who gets the attention. And I feel like that's what happens with a lot of things like, oh, now we don't want to do resolutions, or now we don't want to do,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, don't wake up on time. The new way to be successful is to wake up at noon. Like there's always something controversial, right? To get attention. And it's
Right.
like the new trend. Goals are goals. Period. End of story. They've been used since probably the beginning of time where there's something you want and you've got to work to get it. And where I think a lot of people are kind of, having these moments where they are disillusioned with goals is exactly what you're talking about. It is, we run so quickly to say, how do I write a goal? Write a SMART goal. Make sure it's this and this and this and this, right? But I was talking to Kylie Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Kylie was sharing like the goal setting process and how at the beginning stages of a goal, before you ever write something down on paper, you actually have an entire process, like you were mentioning, right? Of figuring out, what do I really want? Are my values behind it? What's driving it? How do I set myself up for success? Like there's all these different things that go into it. And this is why people don't reach goals. It's not that goals are bad, it's that we don't know how to properly set a goal. And so that's my 2 cents where I'm like, yes, what you're saying needs an entire episode all on its own. But as far as career, you know, it's the same thing, right? You want to find out what your values are before you say, because sometimes this is how I start a conversation when I work with a client. I say, what position are you aiming for? And immediately they're like, boom, boom, boom. And they name 2 or 3 positions. And I'm like, okay, wonderful. Tell me what you like about that position. And we start digging into those positions, right? And then I take a pause and we go back a little bit and we say, what do you want out of life? What is it that motivates you to want to change this position? And we're going back to mission, to values, to purpose, right? And I know for some folks, it sounds a little woo woo, right? To be like, what is your purpose in life? Right. And I am one of those very practical people who normally would be like, purpose, schmurpus, get to work, like, and so, but what I really like about figuring out your purpose, your mission, and your values is that when you figure that out, there is a life that comes from within you. There is like, it comes along with your brand, right? Like, this is who you are at the core. And if you can be who you are at your very core and make your decisions based off that, no matter what you do, whether it's something that's outwardly successful or outwardly like this big CEO position, or if you're working in a nonprofit in a role that maybe isn't paid highly, but you love your work, if it's coming from the core of who you are going to be happy and satisfied and therefore successful for yourself, no matter what you do. And I think often we pull our career decisions from what society tells us we should be, as opposed to from how we were made and what comes natural to us and what we naturally like. So that would be the first piece of figuring out who are you. And then saying, are the jobs that I'm interested in alignment with that? Yes or no? But then, okay, let's open up the world of career, which nowadays is not just, let's look at all the titles and all the industries where people are hiring. Now it's, let's look at all the titles and industries where people could be potentially hiring me. Let's look at freelance opportunities. Let's look at, side businesses. Let's look at online businesses. Let's look at brick and mortar businesses. Let's look at partnerships. There's so many different ways to work and get paid for it now. And so it's kind of figuring out who you are and then looking at all your options. And then based on who you are, starting to narrow those options down. And only then can you say, okay, now which one of these goals before me do I want to go after on the short term? And does it match my life goals in the long term?
I love that. That's such good advice. And it takes us right back to what we were talking about with you being the CEO of your own company, of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
With no successful company on the face of this planet does not have a good mission statement.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like
Yes.
every single successful company, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Coca-Cola, whether it's FedEx, whatever the case is, every single one of them has a clear and like point to point, spot on mission statement of who they are as a company and what they do.
Yes. And who they serve. And that's
who
so
they serve.
clear.
Absolutely. And all that clarity is what brings them success because they know exactly how to market themselves. They know exactly who to go after as clients. If, Nike, for example, they don't go after, middle-aged men per se, or older men, say in their 50s or 60s. No, they go after young athletes. And they say, hey, you buy my shoes, you can be Patrick Mahomes, you can be the next Derek Jeter, you can be all these things because they all use Nike.
Yeah.
That's who they market. And they couldn't do that unless they had a clear and concise mission statement. So what you were talking about is using your mission statement to set your goals. That's so much deeper. And again, we could do an entire podcast on just how to develop your mission statement. But it's so important to have that mission statement of who you are as an individual, what you're going to achieve in life, and how you're going to do it. And once you have that, you're going to, I feel like if I'm a person, HR director or whatever, hiring for specific positions, and I get a person like that, like that's the person I'm bartering with at the negotiation table, because that's the person that gets it and that's who I want working for me.
Yeah. You want someone who embodies the job. And so what you're saying is very clear. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is who I serve. And that's, that is the foundation of any brand. CEO, business professional or not.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
We're gonna have to do a podcast on that one day soon, because I feel like that is a topic that not many people understand or even think about.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And to be honest with you, until I started my company, Renowned Leadership, I didn't. Honestly, I knew what a mission statement was for the Army,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but I didn't realize companies had mission statements,
Yeah. Isn't
and
it
I
crazy
didn't.
how we don't think about these things?
Right, like there were just things I didn't realize, and then once I started building my company's mission statement, it's like, oh, like this is who I am as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Like my company is identifying me as a person. So this is actually my mission statement. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was a
Yes.
very weird process.
Isn't
But
that like help to, I feel like when I work on stuff like that, it helps to make me more bold because I know who I am and how I'm wanting to come across, you know?
absolutely. And more important, I mean, this is probably part of what you're talking about, but I'm going to be more specific and say
Mm-hmm.
it makes decision making so much easier
Yes.
when I understand exactly who I am and exactly what my company is.
Mm-hmm.
I've had many opportunities come to me where I don't even have to think about it. I just instantly can identify that this does not align with my mission.
Mm-hmm.
So no,
You now have
absolutely not.
parameters.
Right, exactly. And not only that, it gives you a kind of like a proverbial measuring stick
Mm-hmm.
of this is my company's, this is my company mindset, this is my individual mindset. Am I meeting that in my life? Is my company meeting that in its life? Are we serving the people we want to serve? Yes or no? Like, and it's just, it helps you keep on the path you need to be on. Pretty much what you just said. I'm just rephrasing it to sound
No,
smart
it's so
because
much clearer. It's so much clearer listening to it back when you mention it. So I think that was helpful.
but so I kind of want to move on a little bit to something that is near and dear to my heart, something so important to me, like I can't even tell you. And this is probably the single, if you ask me, you know, what success looks like for me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you this thing: building a strong professional network. I
Yeah.
want a network in my life where I can, like, oh no, my company just had this horrible thing happen to it. Let me call these three people so that they can help me out of it. And of course, it's going to cost me,
Yeah.
whether it's time, work, money. It's going to cost me something, but I have the people
Yeah.
in my Rolodex. For you younger people, that was a piece of paper on a wheel that you could flip through. Now we have cell phones. I understand that.
Yeah.
But you know, I have those people in my contacts where it's like, hey, you know, person X, like this just happened to me. I need to make some quick cash so I can recover. You got any opportunities for me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how powerful of a conversation is that? How
It's
powerful of a person is that?
it changes everything. It changes everything. You know, I was just thinking this morning, the world has become so flat where you can reach out to a CEO on LinkedIn and you may not get it every time, but I can show you how to get a response. And it's not incredibly difficult. You are a cool human to another cool human, right? Like I've been reaching out to folks that I never thought in a million years. Like when I was younger, I'd be like, oh no, someone like that. I've got to follow protocol, you know? But
Right?
I feel like the world has become so flat between social media and podcasting is literally liberated syndication. Like it's literally all for one and one for all, right? And so in this world where we have access to everything, I feel like anybody, literally anybody who has access to technology has the ability to, increase their social mobility, increase like how they move up in the world and have access to resources and people and networks and things like that. And how to do it, it's going to sound so simple. Like every time I chat with someone about this, it's almost like this door opens that you're like, this was way too simple. And the answer
Right.
is just be a cool person and talk to people. Like it's right. Like
Yeah.
go on. If there's a company you want to work at, or if there's someone who you want to mentor you, you start interacting with them. Like you said, you have to invest time, money, or effort, right? Something, because you cannot, and this is some tough love here, but don't expect people to pour into you when you're not even willing to pour into them with your time, your effort, or your money. Like, what? Especially if you're trying to find a mentor or someone who, I'm going to put this in very crass terms, someone who doesn't need you. I
Well,
mean,
that's
it's
not even
just
that, Patricia. If you want that person to mentor you, then obviously they're successful. And if
exactly,
they're successful, then you're not the only person trying to get their attention.
exactly,
You
exactly.
got to rise above the fold, man, because
Yeah.
successful people, one of the reasons they're successful is they surround themselves. They build a social network, professional network
Hmm.
of like-minded, successful people.
Yeah.
All those people in their network want their attention.
Yeah.
Part of being successful is you have a whole bunch of people underneath you that want to ride your coattails to success.
Yeah. And we want to help. Like as people, we all want to help. There's the crass side of it where it's like they don't need you, right? But at the same time, in a way, we all need each other, right? So when I say that, I mean in the sense of like, if you're not willing to invest your time,
Yeah.
your resources, your money, your effort, then you need that crass message. You need someone to tell you,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you're not God's gift to earth, buddy.
You're not important.
You're not important. But then on the flip side of that, the other piece is that we all do need each other, not in terms of effort, time, and work. That is a way to get into somebody's sphere.
Mm-hmm.
So you take the time, the effort, the money, whatever it takes to get into someone's sphere, to get into their space where they have more focused attention. And then you serve them like one human being serving another, because we all need connection. We all love shared experience. We all love those relatable memes. I don't care if I know you or if I don't. But if you send me a relatable meme that I'm like, this is my life today, I'm going to be like, yes, right? And instantly I feel connected to you because there is something that we're experiencing together, even if we have nothing else in common. And to me, that is the foundation of good networking, is where you just share experience with people, and you don't need to give them something of financial value necessarily, but just
Mm-hmm.
be there for them and don't worry about what you're going to get in return. And when the time comes, when God opens that door, it'll happen. But just you don't have to have necessarily that expectation. And that helps you to serve people better when you don't have that expectation.
Absolutely, great advice. And I was laughing because you were talking about memes, so I was thinking about my favorite meme,
What
and
is it?
it's a guy making a really just face, and he's like just like a face of like a combination of just sad and
Mm-hmm.
super ticked off. And it says the face you make when you realize this mandatory meeting could have been a text message.
Yes. Okay.
And
You
I'm
see what
like,
I'm
that's
saying?
my life. Like, that's happened to me so many times in the army where it's like mandatory meeting. Ugh.
Yeah.
And you get there and it's like, bleh, we're done. I'm like, I drove all the way here for this. Like,
Yes.
are
Or
you
it's like
serious?
discussion because nobody's prepared. So it's like we're figuring it out while we're talking. But I'm like,
Yeah,
all of these things could have been decided ahead of time.
right. So frustrating. But
That's so
and you're
funny.
absolutely right. Right. Like anytime I see that meme, it's like I really that's my life. Like that
Mhm.
right there. The stupid waste of time meetings. I hate those.
Right? And imagine somebody who's just getting started with their business or with their career or whatever, right? They're just getting started. There's two people. One is just getting started and happens to like that same meme and happens to send it to you or to post it. And they're like, hey, this was cool. Like, I thought of you, blah, blah. Like, now you have this instant connection where you're like, hey, let's meet. You're kind of a fun person. Let's talk. Versus
That's
someone else. I don't know. Have you gotten those messages on LinkedIn that are
yeah,
like,
yeah.
hi, I saw
Every
you're a
day.
coach.
Every day.
Oh, you're a
I
coach.
get 3 or 4 every day.
I'm like, I don't know you. So no, I just I have what? So
And then you get the really persistent ones of like a week after their initial message, like, hey, either you're really busy or you don't care
yeah,
because you haven't responded to my message. And you're
yes.
like, well, you kind of got to figure it out. So why are you messaging me? Like, I'm
I'm
really
like, you
busy and
succeeded.
I don't care.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. You succeeded. You got my attention, but in the worst way. So I'm going to
right,
take action, and that action is going to be to delete your message.
right, exactly.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. It's true though. So,
But
so
and the,
friends,
but
that is not networking.
no, no, it's not. But there is a way to do that,
Yeah.
especially on LinkedIn, that
Oh
is
yeah.
valuable. Can you want to
Yes.
talk about that for a minute?
Oh my gosh. There are so many opportunities on any social media platform, but if you're looking at career and leadership, LinkedIn is your spot. Um, so one of the things is to first curate your, well, first set up your landing page, which is your profile, right? So make sure that your mission's on there, your image is great, you have a nice banner, all of that. Once you have your page set up, ready, so that when someone looks at your page, when they get curious about who you are, it lines up with your mission, your purpose, your values, your experience, and all that good stuff. But then the step that many people miss is that in order to network, you have to have access or see kind of what people are doing in the spaces you want to network into. And so the first thing to do that many people miss is you curate your account. And so you do that by, sometimes we follow for entertainment purposes, but if you have
Hmm.
a targeted goal in mind, a reason, an intentional reason why you want to use LinkedIn, you want to unfollow those entertainment only to make room and to let the LinkedIn algorithm know that what you want to see is more of XYZ. So then you start
Hmm.
following companies and people who, post and are in those circles that you want to be in or that you want to network into. So you curate that, you set up, if you're looking for a job, you set up job alerts, you set up, hashtags that you follow. And so now your feed, without you doing anything, is automatically going to show you information that's going to inspire you, motivate you, but also connect you with people who you normally wouldn't connect with. These are people who are posting on, if you want to get into finance, who are posting on finance. And now you can start liking their content. And specifically, if you follow companies that you're interested in, now you can start engaging with those companies. And you would be surprised at how quickly you can build a relationship with the company by liking their posts, putting an insightful comment or a funny comment, putting that meme into their post as a comment. And next thing you know, another employee at that company is going to post something, and guess what? That's going to be in your feed. Then you're going to message them. And it happens bit by bit, and this is why I always think you should be the eternal job searcher, where you're just always in the mix. And next thing you know, you find a connection with someone that you post something or you comment, and they might comment back and they might say, "Hey, thank you for commenting on my post." And you'd be like, "Yeah, awesome." Don't jump into their messages right away.
Hmm.
That can be a little like, oh, too soon, too
Right.
much, right? But just, you'll know when the time is right. They'll say something like, "Oh, thanks for posting my message. Yeah, of course. I love everything related to Sony or whatever company," right? And
Hmm.
then eventually you message them and you say, "Hey, I've been really paying attention to your posts and your company. I love what you're doing. I'm wondering if you might have just 10, 15 minutes of your time. Here's a Calendly link." And I encourage you to have some type of calendaring system, because nobody likes that open ended, "Would you like to meet?" And they're like, uh, sure. Do I send availability, or do you send availability? Or are you open on Saturday at 4 or Thursday at 5? And you lose momentum. And so sending a message saying, "Hey, I really like what you're doing. I'm an up and coming so and so. I would love to talk with you for a few minutes. If you're up for it, and if you have availability, I'm just going to drop my Calendly link here. No pressure either way. Have an awesome week."
Right.
Super simple. And you're
I
going to
don't
get
even do the Calendly link or anything like that. I pick 3 days that
yeah.
I like, and it's like, hey, I'm East Coast time, and everything you just said. Hey, I'm East Coast time. These are the next 3 time slots I have available.
Yeah.
If these work for you, I would just message me back. I'll get the invite sent out, and we'll have the meeting. Or if you need a different time, let me know what works for you.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
and there's no pressure behind it. Sometimes I get ignored, sometimes I don't. But I've actually had that work, and it wasn't me messaging them. It was just a specific instance. There was somebody kind of getting beat up on
Hmm.
a post they had made, and I agreed with their post, so I just started kind of defending them.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
hey, like that's not what the person meant by their post. This is what they meant. Maybe you should stop being so sensitive and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And we got into a little bit of heated debate, but you know me, I'm not scared of getting into a heated debate.
No, you're not
So,
actually. That's
so,
good.
so, but then that person just gracefully bowed out of the feed and just
Hmm.
I think was ignoring it or just watching it, and then
Yeah.
I guess went back and saw later all my comments, and they messaged me like, "Hey man, thanks for standing up for me. I really appreciate it." And then
Yeah.
that started a conversation, which led to a meeting, which led to opportunities,
Yep.
like all because I was just present in the space, exactly like what you're talking about.
Yeah. And this is, imagine this is a community. This is a conversation. It's a circle around what is it? The water cooler, right? At a
Mm-hmm.
company you don't work at. Never before were you able to do that, to
Mm-hmm.
just hop into a circle and be like, hey man, what's up? You would
Right,
never have been able to do that. And so it takes the pressure off to be like, oh, it's just a normal conversation like you would be doing in person. You're just having community online.
right.
But I really like how you mentioned that. Do you have to have a Calendly link? No. But the what you made so clear is that the point is that you took initiative and made it easy for them to book.
Right. Right. And the only reason I do that is because in my experience, I get a lot better results by just
Mhm.
giving them an option to where all they have to do is hit reply and send me a message
Yeah.
rather than like if I want them to go click on a link and then look at it and then book it, like it's just less steps. And
Yeah.
I feel like I get better results from doing it that way.
Hmm.
To each their own. I know there are a million people are going to argue with me and say, no, that's not the right way to do it. That's fine. Do it how you want to do it.
It
Just telling
depends
you
on your
how I do it.
audience,
That,
right?
yeah,
It
correct.
depends
That
on your
too.
audience. Like you're working, am I correct to guess that you're working with high level corporate folks?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, high level
Yeah,
corporate folks are like, I'm too busy to click a link. See ya, right? I
right.
tend to work more with like younger folks, mid-career, people that are like they like the technologies, they want to link
Yeah,
for everything, right? And so you have to know who you're speaking to, and you definitely do, and that's why you get such good results,
absolutely. I didn't even think of it that way, but yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. So, how, excuse me, sniffles. Um, how important is when it comes to the negotiation, especially the negotiation table, but um the interview itself, the resume, the cover letter, which we've talked about, um how important is your communication, not even necessarily verbal, um like your body language, your presence, your eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I tend to recommend is like you need to go take a legitimate communications course, maybe not a college course, but like you need to get to a communication expert and learn how to communicate because
Mm-hmm.
I think people don't realize I can say, Patricia, you're the most awesome career counselor in the world,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not actually, those are the words coming out of my mouth, but that's actually not what I'm communicating.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
how important would you think that would be a good recommendation? Like, hey, get online, find a communication expert and get some training from them as you're diving through your job search.
100%. And whether, uh, you know, um, I think a communication expert is excellent. You definitely need that in all facets of life, not just in career. Um, but if you find someone who is a career coach that also brings in that piece, because some career coaches are like, I work on your resume, I work on your LinkedIn, I help you get hired. Cool. Right. But the
Mm-hmm.
best career coaches, if you're out there in the market looking, right, is a career coach who's going to help you with the mindset piece, who's going to help you to realize the power of your skill set and the power of your experience so that you can hold your head up high, so that you can go in there with more confidence. If you work on it from the inside out, it's going to come naturally. And that's part of
Mm-hmm.
the process. And so there's this combination. So the answer is yes, definitely you need communication. 100% you need communication skills. And there's the tips and tricks and hacks and all the things, right? You take up more space and you look more confident, or you hold your head up high, or you smile with your teeth, or you do a firm hand, right? There's all these things you can do. But we as humans are actually very intuitive. Even those of us who are most logical, most practical, right? We are still highly, highly intuitive. And you can implement all of those hacks, but your lack of confidence or any insecurity will still come through in the tiniest, movements in behaviors, in word choices. And we pick up on that as humans. And so you want to work on some of those things. I just worked with someone who we had like a 48-hour turnaround time, and it was a really important interview.
Oh,
And it
wow.
was like,
No
oh,
pressure.
no pressure. I mean, it was it was hyped up on adrenaline, like, and so we had to do this combination of like, okay, practice these skills of, sitting up straight, opening up your chest, like smiling, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in between each of our sample questions were questions of mindset, like, how did you feel answering this? You said just, which is a word you don't want to use in an interview. Oh, I just did this. Oh, I just did that. Or I
Mm-hmm.
collaborate, I assisted, I helped. Like, you want to minimize that because the focus is on you. But we would talk about like, well, tell me, you said just, what is that about? And they'll be like, oh, well, I feel like it wasn't really. And I'm like, really? So then we'll talk about how that just action impacted the bottom line and how
Mm-hmm.
it changed what other people
That's
did in their
so
career.
interesting.
Yeah, right. And once you know from the inside how it is that you impact your workplace,
Mm-hmm.
you hold your head a little higher, right? And
Right.
so all the little tactics that we do at the beginning, they're now way more natural. She almost doesn't have to think about it because now she's like, this is what I do for my company. And it just comes out more confidently.
Right. And I think a big is this is something I personally struggle with. So maybe you can coach me through it. Is like you said, this when you're in an interview or in one of those meetings, the spotlight's on you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I do not like. I love to give credit. I do not
Yep.
like, I was always taught in all the leadership schools and everything I did, true leaders don't take credit, they give credit.
Yep.
So it's hard for me to take credit because I've been
Mm,
trained not to take credit. It's hard for me to be, I don't want to be in the spotlight. I want you to be in the spotlight, right?
mm,
I'm just
yeah.
the puppet master behind the scenes. You're the
Well,
one
here's
doing
the
everything.
thing, though.
So
Here's a
it's
question for you.
okay.
It's about to get interesting here. Here's a question for you. You were also trained to serve, right?
Correct.
And so when you go into an interview, a negotiation, when you go into any part of the career process, right? Whether you're a business or, a professional, how are you serving a committee who is looking for you, but cannot move your name forward to the CEO, the vice president, whoever, if they don't have enough information and they want you, they know you, they want you to work there. But Joe Schmo came in here, half the skills, and he's talking like he saves the world every single day. So they're looking to hire you, and they're literally pen in hand on the paper looking at you. And in their mind, as you're speaking, they're saying, you are so nice. You're so humble. But I need something to be able to go to my manager and say, look how amazing this person is. We need to have them on our team.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do that, you are literally, I mean, maybe I'm taking it a stretch, that's fine, but you are literally handing a position to someone who is less qualified because you weren't serving the committee.
Fair point.
Isn't it crazy how we think, oh, I'm gonna look a certain way, or I don't want to brag about myself, but there is a place and a time for everything. And
Right.
when you're leading people, you're like, no, 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 no. My job is to help you reach your potential. And I do that by encouraging you and calling out your potential. But when the purpose of the scenario is to get into the position so that you can serve people, you have to in a humbly confident way. And that's another piece of the mindset, is how do you do that without being cocky? Because you also don't want to move into being cocky, right?
Right.
So in this like humble, confident way, you can say, I'll give you two examples. One example is, you know, I worked with this woman once who on the signature, her signature, it said, I am the entire committee for blah, blah, blah. I'm like, the entire, like, the committee, like, and it just, you could see them kind of elevating themselves where it didn't serve a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
That's cockiness. But then at the same time, I've also been on committees where people interview and you ask them, tell me about yourself. And their response will be something like, I've had the honor of serving this organization, this organization, this organization. And we had a really good run at this organization. I was able to put together this, 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 and this. So I was really happy to have served my constituents in that way. So now you're
Mm-hmm.
sharing all of your accomplishments, but you're sharing them from a place of, I'm so happy to have been able to serve in this way.
Wow. That's good. See?
Yeah. So
And that's why you need to work with Patricia, because you get coaching like that.
that's
I
funny.
really appreciate it. And
Yeah.
that, but yeah, that's such a good point. And it's funny because you know me, I'm fairly humble. Um,
You are. I think
when
honestly, just so you know, as I know you know this already because you listen to Steven's podcast, but he is one of the coolest humans I know. And yet, like one of the most qualified, like yet most humble humans. And it's hard to come across people that have that high skill set, but that very relatable personality. So I
thank
just
you.
had to say that.
Not entirely true, but thank you. No, I do try to be very humble. And I've been told I take it too far at times with my humility. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, like you need to step up your aggression a little bit. Like
Mm-hmm.
people need to know you got teeth. Yes, be humble. That's a very good quality, but people need to know you got teeth as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so finding that balance has been a struggle for me. So I really appreciate your advice. And I am definitely going to put it into effect. So we're almost out of time. Um, but I really want to get this final question in, because I feel like this is what really it does the most damage in someone's career. And that's overcoming challenges slash setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of times that plays such a, oh, I didn't, I was perfect for this job.
Mm-hmm.
I interviewed so well for this job. We were laughing, we were crying, we were yucking it up.
Yeah.
They loved
Yeah.
me. We talked for an hour and a half,
Yeah.
and I didn't get the job. I got rejected. How
Mm-hmm.
do I overcome that?
Oh my goodness. It is a constant mind game. Every time folks hear career coach, they always think resume. It goes back. Well, my resume is pretty good. Well, my LinkedIn's pretty good. But it's really the entire package of, you know, there are going to be ups and downs. And in order for you to remain, like you said, the CEO, the hero of your own career, a hero is a mindset. None of us have superpowers. We all have different talents and abilities. And sometimes we look at someone who's like a celebrity in our space. And by celebrity, I mean like a VP or a CEO or, a director level if you're starting out. And you think, oh, that's them. It's because they're amazing. No, it's not. They might be great, but they're not any better than you are. It's all a mindset. And part of that process is resiliency, right? Being able to have that setback. I got rejected from a position. I really wanted this one, but being able to say, this is not a loss. This is a growing moment. So what did I learn from it? So you stay in the moment and figure out like, A, what went wrong? What can I learn to do better next time? And then also kind of put it into perspective that, no matter how many setbacks you have, what matters is how many times you get up, right? And so as you're in that moment, give yourself time to go through a process. And when you're searching for a job, right, you might get rejection multiple times. That is quite normal, right? And so set yourself up a process that is when I get rejected. And that's part of the humility of to expect that we're never going to get rejected is just straight prideful. So let's kind of take it back a notch. When I get a rejection, then I'm going to and create a little process for yourself. And I always think of it as like a grieving process. I know it sounds silly, but a grieving process of saying it's okay to be upset, to be sad, to be mad, to be frustrated, to be confused, to be disappointed. Give yourself the space, whether it's a half hour, a day, whatever it is, give yourself the space to grieve whatever loss you just experienced. But then make sure that you have a next step. And that next step is to say, okay, now that I've grieved the loss, let's change gears and see what went wrong. Could I have avoided it? And recognize that some things are in your control. I didn't prepare for my interview the way I should have. I prepared, but I missed one piece. So let's add it on for the next one. It's not a time to get down on yourself. It's a time to just say, how do I get better? And then also recognize, and I usually try to have people write it down because unless we write it down, it didn't happen, right? Unless we're Facebook friends, we're not really friends. Like, so I have people write it down. Like, it's true though. Like, if you didn't write it down, like, it didn't happen. And so I'm like, sure, write down what lessons you learned, specifically what you will do differently next time, and then actually do it. But also write down what was not in your control. If you have a chance to talk to HR and they tell you, oh, we had another candidate, or even if, let's say there was an inside candidate and you still got into the final round, but you didn't get past it. There are some things that no matter how amazing you are, if that president or whoever is already in their mind made up that they're going to hire someone else, there's nothing you could have done. And therefore, there's nothing you did wrong. So it's like going through that graceful process. And then I still wouldn't end it there. I would do one step further and say, okay, I figured out what went wrong in this one, what I could do differently. And now let's improve our process moving forward. And oftentimes, if we just kind of do rejection and we're like, I'm so resilient, I get back up and do the same thing again, that is not progress. It's that constant improvement based off every rejection is really, it's not, we think of rejection as going down, like, oh, I failed. I think of it as a step. It's like every rejection teaches you something else. And so next one's better. So next one's better. And so, yeah, that's what I would do. I would build a process to come back and come back better after that rejection.
That's such good advice. And it reminds me of Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was being interviewed and they asked him about all the shots he had missed in his career. And he's, believe it or not, and don't send me hate mails, just this guy's opinion. He's the greatest basketball player ever. But when you ask, arguably the greatest basketball player ever, about all the shots they've missed in their career, his response was amazing. He's like, I never missed a shot. He was like, I learned what not to do to make a shot.
Wow.
And it's like that's a great point. He never failed. He never viewed missing a shot as failure. He viewed as, okay, in this situation, this velocity on the ball, this spin on the ball, yada yada yada. And yes, they get basketball players, football players, they get down into that level of detail
Hmm.
of from this distance, this is the velocity on the ball I need to have, and this is the rotation on the ball I
Yeah.
need to have. Like they get down to the science of the game to elevate themselves to that Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe
Hmm.
Bryant, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, all these players. Like that is the level of knowledge they have into what they do.
It's a
And
craft.
every single time they fail, that is teaching them this doesn't work in the future.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
good.
that's just such good advice of understanding that they're flipping that mindset of yes, you got rejected,
Hmm.
congratulations. First of all, you're not the only one, so get over
Yeah.
yourself. Second of all, like don't take it as rejection, take it as okay, so I'm going to do like this didn't work, I'm doing this next time.
Hmm.
And ultimately that's what's going to lead to your success and make you the goat, is because you have all this knowledge of things that don't work. Right.
Yes. It's true. It's true. What you're talking about is it's a craft. Like, and half that craft, more than half, I'd say 70% of that craft is figuring out why things don't work. That's what gives you confidence to know why they do work. So that explanation, like the way you explained it, oh my goodness, that was a beautiful way of explaining it. I'm probably going to borrow that and credit you, but I will borrow that
You only
from
have to
time
give me
to time.
credit to the first two times, then
Just the first two
it's
times?
yours.
Okay.
Yeah, after that
Sweet.
it's yours.
Awesome. Awesome. But it's you have such a way of saying it with such clarity that there's a process to becoming the greatest. There's a process to becoming successful. And the failure is inevitably a part of that process.
Yeah.
And I'm not even a basketball fan. And I'm in my head, I'm like, yes, I was like waiting. It was like a cliffhanger when you said the first part that you were like, I never missed a shot. I was like, I want to make up the answer in my mind, but like, what's the punchline? So it's good. That's
That's awesome. And that wasn't a direct quote. That was me paraphrasing what Michael Jordan said. But so don't send me hate mail for that too. I understand. I didn't
You must
directly
get a lot of
quote
hate
him.
mail. That's funny.
but but no, it's so true and so important that we understand our failures, because and I tell people, they're like, yeah, what if, especially when it comes to sales. I'm coaching someone right now on the price of what they're doing, and they're
Mhm.
like, yeah, I don't think people will go for it. And it's like,
Mm,
well, how do you know?
yeah.
And two, so what if they don't?
Yeah.
Like, you're never gonna know unless you do it. And if they reject you, then well, now you know. Like, good job.
Yeah.
You either need to lower or raise your price, one of the two. You're figuring this thing out.
Hmm.
But just sitting there on the sideline going, I don't know, and then doing something safe. I think is what really gets people trapped the most, is they try to play it safe
Yeah.
rather than just, you know what, screw it. I'm going for broke here. I'm going, Chris Hanna, another guest on my podcast, he's a big poker player, and he's like, hey man, you just got to go all in on your life. He's like,
Oh
eventually you got to
man.
go all in on yourself. And that's where I'm at in my career. I know that's where you're at in your career. Is it's
Hmm.
just, I get dealt a hand and I'm strategic about it. But it's like, hey, this opportunity, boom, I'm all in.
Yeah.
I never go half on anything anymore. If I believe it's the right opportunity, I'm all
Yeah.
in. If it's
Yeah.
not the right opportunity, I fold. I'm out. See you next time.
Yeah.
There is no in between anymore. I have successfully, thank God, taught myself that half in doesn't get me what I want.
No.
And
Half
so,
in gives you less than half. Like, you know how it's like, oh,
right,
if I put in half, I'll get. No, you're actually going backwards. Like,
Exactly. You're better off to fail than to just put one foot in.
Oh my gosh, say that again.
Said you're better off to fail than to just put one foot in.
That should be literally just stamped everywhere. You are better off to fail. You get more out of failure than of taking
100%.
the safe route.
100%. Because
So
you
good.
learn. All right, Patricia, we're actually past time, but that's okay. So I want you to tell everybody just real quick what you do and how they can find you to get you to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm over at theuncommoncareer.com and I have a podcast called The Uncommon Career Podcast. And I'm finding that really my niche area is branding and marketing yourself and just getting that confidence to be who you want to be at work and then show up that way so that people want to work with you, similar to what we talked about on this episode today. I also, and you may not know this yet, so I'm going to spring this on you, Stephen.
Uh-oh.
But I've also found that I am abnormally good, above average with building funnels, getting your online marketing, your online sales system going. And so if you are thinking of, starting an online business, you're curious what that's like, or you're in the middle of it and you feel like it's probably not supposed to be this hard, then reach out to me at theuncommoncareer.com/online. That's where all of the online business services are. But this is a wild ride, and same like you, I definitely admire you for that. And so I'm going all in too. And so reach out to me. We'll see what happens.
Fantastic. And I will have all her links in the show notes and in the bio, with all her socials and website links and all of that. As always, Patricia, you've been on here twice already, so you know the deal. One final piece of wisdom to leave our audience with. Go.
I feel like your quote is the one that needs to end this. One final piece of wisdom. It's really along the lines of what we've talked about, is that if you're not yourself in the process, if you don't allow yourself to be exactly you, nothing more, nothing less, then who are you? Like, what is the world getting if you're not being yourself? You know, I feel like I missed out on half my life because I was busy trying to fit in and be someone else. And the freedom to be yourself, cringy, quirky, weird, cool, fun, whatever, whoever you are. Like, I'm not the coolest person. I'm not the funniest person. I'm not this or that or whatever. I'm not your Instagram person. Like, I am who I am. And if you like it, then let's work together. And if you don't, that's okay. And that freedom, seriously, it's the most amazing thing in the world. And so I'm not there every day, but when we can get there as humans, it is amazing.
It is amazing. And it's so funny because I remember a conversation you and I had at a meeting one time. We had just recorded our first podcast together, and you were like, yeah, I went back and watched it, and I was just so cringy.
Oh, it's
and
so bad.
I was like, no, you were great. I was the one that was so cringy. And then we started arguing about who was more cringy.
We had a self-pity session. We're like, no, I'm the worst.
It's so funny because now I think both of us are to the point in our journey where it's like, I don't care.
No.
It is what it is.
You're gonna hear the cringe, you're gonna hear but you have to get out the cringe. You have to, whatever it is that you're trying to do, you have to do it badly before you get good at it.
Absolutely. That's the wisdom right there, the final piece that you got to just do it. All right, everybody, that wraps up this episode of the Renowned Leadership Podcast, and it also wraps up this series. I hope you guys found so much value in it, and I will see you next week. And remember, lead like a champion. Goodbye, everybody. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the Renowned Leadership Podcast. We hope you gained some really valuable insights from our conversations with top industry leaders and experts. And don't forget to head over to renownedleadership.com to download our free checklist that is specifically designed to help military veterans transition from the military to their new corporate jobs. You can find it at renownedleadership.com. We're also so excited to announce our partnership with the Career Winners Circle, a top executive coaching company with incredible resources for their clients and top-notch coaches. You can learn more about them at careerwinnerscircle.com. And if you're interested in taking your leadership skills to the next level, don't forget to schedule your complimentary coaching consultation with me at renownedleadership.com. And all I have to say is, wow, what a conversation. It was truly epic. I'm just so thankful for that conversation. I think my biggest takeaway from it is just do it. Do the cringe, man. You're not going to get good at it until you do it, until you beat on your craft, until you practice. So just take that leap of faith, take that first step and go do it. That's how I started this podcast. I didn't even research how to start a podcast. I just started doing it. Am I the best? Nah, not really, but that's okay. I'm figuring it out as I go, and it'll be okay. So I encourage you all just to go do it. Embrace the cringe, man. And so don't forget to go check out Patricia at theuncommoncareer.com and check out her podcast, the Uncommon Career Podcast. And make sure you give her plenty of love, like all her content. She's on LinkedIn every single day with videos. You can follow her there at Patricia Ortega. And make sure you give her some likes and some feedback and some 5-star ratings on her podcast. And don't forget to do the same for me. Like, subscribe, comment, and give me a rating, give me a review. And while you're at it, head over to renownedleadership.com. Check out all my free resources. Check out all my podcasts. And then once you're done doing that, or before you do that, whichever you prefer, click on the Talk to a Coach book now, whatever button you want. And it's going to take you to my calendar, and you're going to get in a one-on-one call with me absolutely free. So make sure you knock that out as well. All right, everybody. So that's going to wrap up this week's podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. It's truly an honor to be here and serving you guys. And I can't believe that I get to do this. So thank you again. And I will see you next week. And don't forget, lead like a champion. Goodbye, everybody.